is what we need upon us. Let them come together with the unity among us. Unity, it's a unity. Yana, this a good work, you know what I'm saying?
Umoja ni nguvu, utengano udhaifu, tukisimama.
Hi everyone, my name is Adam Morse. I'm from London, I have a production company, Holyfield Productions. I'm a filmmaker and an actor and a philanthropist with a new non-profit called Crystal Vision Foundation, which is all about supporting disabled and differently able talent, giving them a voice and trying to break the stigma that's associated with disability.
That's a lot. Kenny Desai from London. Music executive, now moving into the film industry and have been doing so for quite some time. I'm an entrepreneur at the same time. I have multiple businesses in media and entertainment and finance. We're here launching our new company, Urban Works, which is focused on inclusion and diversity.
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel Killian. I am an actor, a writer, producer from the Comoros Islands. I was born in France and I live in Los Angeles, and I have 2 films in the festival circuit, and I'm very happy to be here in Cannes for the first time.
Hello, I am Alita Chappelle, and I'm from New York, but I also work in Portugal. I'm directing a play now, actually in Portugal, which is interesting. But I was a casting director who did maybe 30, 40 studio films. I had always been a theater director as well before I started casting, so I've gone back and forth. I've directed like 3 features at this point, trying to sell 2 of them in the market that are now available. And like I said, I was saying that I do casting consulting now because I have such strong relationships with actors and with all the agents for 30 years. So I do that to attach name actors to projects. And I think that's it. So I do my projects, I do other projects, but that's me. Thank you.
Hello, hello. Is that working? Is that working? Hi, my name is Caprice. Is that not working? What?
Raise your voice higher because the microphone out of
Hi.
Yes. Oh, that's good.
Hi, my name is
Sounds
Caprice
good.
Crawford. I'm American. I'm based in Berlin. I run an international agency. The name is Crawford Talents. I develop actors as far as I also send them out for projects, and I have not so much to say, but you can ask me questions later, and that's about it.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeremy Zimmerman. I'm a casting director in London.
But you know, this one's not really doing so well. You know, I am going to stand down here. It's going to be easier because I've got to pass this mic back and forth to you guys. First of all, Jeremy's being modest. He's a legend. So this guy is. You're gonna ask him a lot of questions about what he's doing. And we have a topic called diversity and inclusion. I mean, that is a big subject, and it means many, many things. It isn't just ethnicity, it isn't just diversity of ability, it isn't just gender. It's all of those things and many, many more, because we're in the middle of breaking down a lot of long-held stereotypes, a lot of sort of colonial ideas, a lot of racial superiority ideas. These are big concepts that are really being challenged, and I'm very grateful for the fact that they're being challenged right now, because the reality is that life is, you know, if we look at our planet, we have huge groups, huge population groups that have been ignored, marginalized. Half the planet is female. You know, people have all sorts of abilities, they have different appearances. There's so many different things about us as humans that make us far more fascinating than the sort of reduced pyramid that we've always been subject to. I think even, you know, with casting people, you guys were sometimes forced in the past to look within a very narrow parameter. And now it's sort of finally, you know, opening up, even though I think there's still a great deal of work to be done. So, you know, I'd like to just start with, you know, Adam, and talk about, you know, some of the challenges you've had and what you feel like your successes have been in terms of challenging these stereotypes. Mm-hmm. And see if that mic works.
Hello? Hello? Yeah, no, I think you can hear me. Yeah, for myself, as a differently abled performer, artist, I've found that there's been a lot of discrimination in the entertainment world. Still, it happens every day until now. And I think there's obviously a lack of reference points, and I think that's the main issue. It's, you know, we need more trailblazers, because until there are more people out there that can be looked at as, oh, you know, it changes the mindset of decision makers, gatekeepers, to think, okay, well, hiring somebody who's differently able or disabled isn't going to be necessarily more expensive, or you're not going to get any less quality of the outcome of whatever the, you know, result is. Performance, if it's an artist, someone behind the camera, in front of camera. I was quite closeted about my condition and my disability. In fact, completely I was. I didn't tell anybody until I released my first movie as a writer-director a couple of years ago. And that was a conscious decision after facing consistent prejudice. And I realized what the common denominator was, and then I decided, okay, if I can get by without people knowing, and I can, and every day, you know, I managed to fit in okay because I can fake eyeline well enough, and people don't realize that I'm registered blind. I have only partial peripheral sight. I mean, even for myself, I questioned what was possible because I had perfect eyesight until 2009 when I was diagnosed with a rare mitochondrial disease, which caused me to lose all my central sight, rapidly deteriorated within 6 months, irreversibly. There's no treatment or cure for the condition. So I thought, oh, well, I can't be an actor. And that's because there's nobody for me to look to. Do you know what I mean? There's hope. And sure, maybe there are some blind working actors out there, but can you guys name me any? I mean, how long is that list off the top of your head? And if you can't, you know, give me those reference points that are at that stellar level, which are going to inspire people. And I'm talking about the top, because that's what I aspire. You know, people, they need something to aspire to. So for myself, it's about leading by example and being the first actor to do this, basically. And my foundation, Crystal Vision, is going to nurture talent, you know, differently abled artists who do aspire to be at the top level, give them the training, the workshops, the mentorship, so that they're ready, you know, to be given the opportunities when they come.
And on a personal level, I mean, what was your, if you don't mind me asking, you know, what was the catalytic moment where you said, I'm not going to hide this anymore and I'm just going to be who I am and have the courage to do that? What was that like?
It's a good question. It was actually with Billy Zane, who was in my movie Lucid. We were shooting and he didn't know that he was being directed by a blind filmmaker. Neither did the rest of the crew or cast. 3 people on set knew. My DOP, my cinematographer, Michelle, the lead actor, Laurie Calvert, and my main producing partner. And Billy, I told Billy in confidence in his trailer a couple of days into filming with him, and he laid it on thick and basically said to me, you have to tell people. And I said, no, I don't. I don't, because I knew what I'd been through all those years, you know, coming in and out of town, trying to pitch myself to companies, and then whenever it had just come up organically, or if I'd have mentioned it in the conversation, I felt the energy shift in the room, the whole vibe changed, and people would then straight away, because everybody has this kind of subliminal bias, and they can't help it, and it's programming, and it's because of the way society views disability. There is this negative stigma that exists with it. It's not sexy, it's not cool, and you don't think of, you know, again, because of lack of reference points, I think. And so Billy said to me, if I don't tell, he basically laid it home and said, if you don't tell people and you don't open up, then think about the next filmmaker who's in your shoes, the next kid who goes blind when they're 19, or if they're 16, 15, because kids are getting diagnosed with conditions every day, you know? And he said, if they don't have anybody to look to, and I heard him and I thought about it, and it sunk in and it landed, and I said, he's right. And I thought of my own younger brother, Jake, because he's got the same condition as me. He's 3 years younger, and at that time he was really struggling still. I mean, you know, it is every day when you live with a disability, but when you can flip it into a positive, and then you can, you know, show other people how to exceed expectations, that's how you create the paradigm shift. So that's what we're working towards now.
Thank you for sharing that. So Kenny, your turn. I want to know, you know, how you've threaded your work. You know, and honestly, I really do hate the word diversity and inclusion.
Yeah.
It speaks to the idea that there's a normal world, and then we're diverting from that. And in fact, we're getting to more accuracy. And I want to see how you're getting into more accuracy in your work.
Right. So, for me, again, interesting story. So my background has been in music business for over 25 years. I've been working with record labels, managers, talent, celebrity talent, award shows. I've kind of been through every aspect of media and entertainment and music. So I've seen and experienced so much good and bad. And one thing that I've noticed over the years is that all the points we've just been discussing have all come around at some point. You know, it could be at an award show, it could be with a particular celebrity talent that may not want to do certain things, whatever it is. So for me, it's been like, but on a personal level, I've not personally experienced any discrimination. I've always found myself in a position where I've always been inclusive into everything. Always been invited here to do this, do that, or be involved. I think it's more to do with personality and knowledge and experience and just kind of bringing that level of expertise. But when I was living in LA, I had a light bulb moment. And what happened was, I said to myself, as a guy from London, there's no representation, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, there's no representation for anyone of color. So if you're an independent filmmaker or you're a producer, whatever, you know, actor, where do you go? Where's home? Where's that company that everyone can run to? And there are pockets of production houses and companies that exist, but there's no home for anyone to go to. So my business partner by the name of Deepak Sikka, who used to run Molyneux, which was a production house, he's produced King's Speech, Moon, bunch of Oscar and BAFTA winning movies. He and I sat down and I said to him in 2017 that I want to create this company that basically becomes like the home for inclusion, diversity, and all of what you've just said and everything else. So at least there is some place for him to go to, and more importantly, more about people of color. So it doesn't matter if you're black, brown, Chinese, Indian, this is where you can come to, and we will listen to you. So in 2017, we set this company up, Urban Works, and we were both very busy, so we couldn't fully activate it. In the meanwhile, we've gone through a pandemic. We've gone through Black Lives Matter. All the issues that were already around have now come to the forefront. So now it is the subject that everyone talks about. As far as we're concerned, we were already there, ahead. All we've been doing is we were thinking about setting up a production company, but it's evolved into more of a mini studio. So we now have the finance in place, the post in place, access to talent, you know, from the UK, US, Africa, even India. We're positioned independently, but we're operating like a mini major. And we're not trying to be gatekeepers. We want to provide a home and a platform for those that are struggling out there, so they can come to us, because we don't know where that next big director is going to be, or the writer, or the producer, or the talent. It doesn't really matter where they're coming from, what color they are. We're at home. This is what we're trying to do, and that's kind of like where my standpoint is on this. Where, having had the experience and understanding where the world is going today, we kind of find ourselves right in the center of the whole thing, basically. So that's kind of my view on this.
That's great. Thank you.
You know, and sorry, just one more thing. So I say this because I never want to be a film producer. I never want to be the guy running around the script trying to raise money for my movie. I'm not doing that. I want to be the guy that actually has all that in place. Then I can find the talent, the producer to support or get behind and make that happen, because that's the way I saw it. So that's what we've done from the pandemic. We started doing that, and now we're positioned. So we currently are active on several productions. We're EPs, we're co-producing on a few, film and TV, all of which will be announced from by the end of Cannes. There'll be some announcements going out in press, so people will be able to hear and see what's going on.
All right.
Congratulations, man. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's pass it on to Rachel.
Thank you.
So Rachel, you've had an interesting journey, as everybody else has here. Can you talk to us a little bit about what your adventures have been like as a woman? If there have been any gender imbalances in your journey, or if you've had an easy road forward? What's happened?
So I'm an actor in the United States. I am from France, I have an accent. The challenge I've been facing is they don't think there is black people in France, so they don't call me for French role because I'm a black person. So they think a French woman is white, blue eyes, blonde hair. So I've been missing a lot of opportunities because they don't call me for roles that I'm perfect for, because they don't think a black woman can be French.
Even though France, had one
French colonized Africa, so there's a lot of black people in France, but some casting people or some producer don't know that. So I've been blessed to work on many projects, even if I have an accent. And I've noticed something, because I've been in America for more than 10 years. Every year at the Oscars, there isn't a single diverse person winning Best Actress. Since Halle Berry, there hasn't been any person, except this year. But I find it sad that every year it's a white person who won Best Actress. Best Actress, they give for supporting roles, they give it to black women, but for Best Actress, there hasn't been since this year. So I became a producer 3 years ago, and I decided to add diversity in my cast, because I think it's really important to have black actors, Latino actors in an ensemble in a movie, because we make money just as white people. So I think that it's very important that they include diversity in movies and TV shows. But as far as challenging, my only concern for me has been I'm not being seen as a French person. And also as an African person. Sometimes people don't think I'm African because I'm from the Comoros Islands, which is a very mixed country. And I've been told that my skin is not dark enough to be a African character in a movie.
Let me interject, because there's a lot of decisions being made by they.
Yes.
And it's really based on their own ignorance, not an actual fact. It's sort of interesting that we're being forced to address, we're not really addressing the real issue, which is that a lot of the mainstream needs to educate itself and to grow itself to understand that it is the part that's lacking, not the actual person in question.
Yes, there's a lot of actors that are available and they would love to work, but they don't get the opportunity because of their ethnicity or their accent. So Hollywood has been changing. There is some improvement. They include more and more Asian actors, Latino actors, but for cast, it's changing, but for directing, I think there's less women in directing position. It's mostly still a male-dominated industry for directing and writer and top executive producers. But there are more women that are trying to make things, but they don't get the same financing than men. So it's not easy to make a movie with a smaller budget.
Let's talk about that a little bit before we move on. Do we think that there are some solutions to these things that you're bringing up? For example, coalitions of women who want to finance, or and one of the things I'm very interested in is seeing how people who want to address change have to address it from a financial point of view. And it kind of comes to what you're saying, like maybe we need to be encouraging women to look at the fact that they control a lot of money in the world, and it's time to speak with your checkbook, so to speak. So that could be an interesting moment to move forward.
Yes, I agree, and I hope that they get access to financing equally to men. That will be very helpful. Yes.
But you have 2 films right now. So
yes, I have 2 films in the festival circuit. One is called Epiphany. It's a drama. It's starring African-American actors. I wrote it and produced it. We shot it during the pandemic. And we've premiered at a festival last year at the Burbank International Film Festival in Los Angeles. We just went to Morocco. We were in the official competition, and we got selected in Zanzibar for Zanzibar International Film Festival. So I'm very excited about that. And my other film, it's a dark comedy about death. It's starring a Latina actress, a senior actress. And we just got selected at a festival in Japan, and I'm still submitting them for a festival, and I'm looking for funding to do the feature film.
Yes, let's find a lot of women willing to support you. But I think this is great. You're a great example of what it means to be determined to do what you want to do and not take no for an answer.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Lita, you have a fascinating career. You've had, I've seen your name around Hollywood for a long time.
Long time.
Associated with some amazing projects. But let's talk about some of going back 30 years ago.
Yeah.
The mindset of a studio back then.
Oh, yeah.
What it is right now. What have you seen change? What's evolved? Who's changing behind the scenes?
I mean, there's been huge changes. I remember I was flashing on something where someone mentioned, well, it's the casting directors not opening their mind to a role being cast by someone other than, oh, it's a doctor, so we'll think of a white doctor instead of a doctor from India, so it has progressed. But I was thinking of even, I've worked with Francis Ford Coppola. That was where I first started my casting. I always thought I wanted to be an AD to be a director because I wanted to be a director. And they go, no. Directors, ADs become producers because they're mean and they're unhappy. They're not directors, So your path and you're nice, so you should go into casting. And I never knew what casting was.
No, hold on, because actors don't think casting directors are very nice.
Well, people tell me, I don't know. I've heard about mean casting directors, and I think that's amazing. People tell me, they go, oh, you're so nice. Why are you so nice? And I go, well, how can I not be nice? Because I want you to do good. It's like I'm selling the car. You're a beautiful car. I tell the producer, look at where you're going to find a car more beautiful than this. I'm a car salesman. Right. So I want to prep the car, make it pretty, make it feel secure, make it feel like it's done a good job. And will perform well. So I'm a salesperson on both sides. I work for the producers, but I also make the actors look good.
Because you have taste, you have acumen, you're also advocating for these people.
Yeah, I do. But with, I remember when we did The Outsiders, which had every actor in Hollywood with Tom Cruise and Matt Dillon and
right?
Yeah. I think he'd been an extra in a film, but Diane Lane. It was just this huge, massive. Rob Lowe. It was this huge, massive, and we probably saw about 2,000 kids. And I was an assistant.
A generation of.
Yeah, because it was Patrick Swayze was the brother, and it's But then Francis wanted to do Rumblefish, which was another Susie Hinton book, and when I went on location to Oklahoma. And we did Outsiders, and we were going to go right into doing Rumblefish, even though we didn't have the money. But Francis does that. He just goes, let's make Rumblefish while we're here. And it was starring Mickey Rourke and Matt Dillon and Diane Lane again. And I said to Francis at one point, I said, I didn't know there were so many black people in Tulsa, Oklahoma. How could this story be without a black person as one of the kids? And he goes, you're right. He goes, can you see if you can find Larry Fishburne? and Larry had actually dropped out because he was in Apocalypse Now when he was 16, and then and so he really didn't have an agent or anything. I eventually found him, so we put Lawrence, now he's Lawrence, but I've known him when he was Larry, into the movie. But that's how, if someone is not in the room, you need people in the room that's making decisions. That is the biggest thing. I've also worked I was the head of casting at Fox when Fox TV started. And that was one of my goals, was to say, how can you have this ensemble cast and not do it? But it was with multiple, Latino. It's Southern California. My God, how do you have it?
That's a state that's 50% Latin.
Yeah. How do you have nothing like that? But I was in the room to bring it up. And that's the problem. I also, when I was at Sony doing films, because I did all of Damon, I did in Living Color. I was the executive over in Living Color. And I've done 3 of Damon's movies. But that was at Sony, and there was one black woman executive in all of the studio system and she almost could greenlight a film. They always said she could greenlight, but she always said that's not true. They always said there was one to greenlight a film. But that's my biggest point, is that if there's not a diversity in the room, especially where there's deciding what money to be spent, then you cannot. People get surprised. I did Introducing Dorothy Dandridge for HBO, and Martha Coolidge was the director, and at our first staff meeting, the first staff meeting round table with all the department heads. I was the only department head. And it's a movie about a black woman in Hollywood. And I went to Martha, who's a dear friend. I've done 7 movies for her. And I said, how can there be no black people but me here in this room? And she goes, well, we tried to hire, and, but there was people that weren't really qualified, and this is a huge movie, and it's like 11, for HBO, it was a higher budget, it was 11 million. They usually do 8, 9 at that point. And I'm like, well, there has to. And then they go, well, the hair person that's taking care of Hallie is black. So, and I go, but she's, that's the best you could do? And then they'll hire PAs, they'll hire PAs.
We're talking about approximately 25 years ago.
When was Halle Berry, and when was In Living Color? Yeah, so it's really, But I have this Shakespeare thing. I started in theater with Shakespeare, and I directed Romeo and Juliet in Harlem, the first black, and Harry Lennox and Angelou Ellis are the stars of it, and it was the first black, and Romeo was Latino, Juliet was black. But I have a Macbeth project I've been trying to do forever in the Caribbean, and I have some financing put together. I went to BET with this project as something early, like about 7 years ago. And the executive, I'm not going to name names, but she really was like, this sounds great, this is great, but can you make them drug dealers? And I go, no, there's monarchs, there are black monarchs. And then she goes, she goes, yeah, but then she said, you sure you have to keep the Shakespeare language? And I went, yes. She goes, black people don't like Shakespeare. This was an executive at BET that was a black woman. So you really have to, it's a battle. It's like, even when you see people get in a position when they should be able to progress the system and bring brothers and sisters with them, a lot of times there's this, they're either...
We have tokenism inside of the system, or
and it's
somebody who's trying to fit in so much that they actually...
And they don't want to take a risk. And nobody wants to take a risk, and that's what the problems with that film, and some of the other ones. I have another film I'm doing that's in Spain about a black expatriate. And Gary Duderin is the star, and a black Spanish actress. She's... and Harry Lennox again, because he's one of my best buddies. But, people go, well, what is it? It's a drama. I go, it's a sexy drama. It's sort of a swimming pool kind of movie. A bunch of people at an estate hanging out. There's drama. There was some bisexuality that happened in their early age, and it's a very sexy, smart film with beautiful people. And they go, well, what film has been like that? I mean, it's going to shoot in Mallorca. People just don't see it. They've never seen it before, so they don't want to do it. So and everybody goes, it's a great script. The script is fabulous. Can one of them be white, maybe? I've had so much trouble.
It's so strange. We've been fighting this battle. I mean, when She's Gotta Have It came out, that was, you can almost categorize that as an art film, shot in black and white with a few color sequences. In 1986, and really, that should have opened up a world with such film, but it didn't.
And it made tons of money. But it cost nothing, but it made tons of money.
It's just about that. It's about the mindset of the people making decisions. And so, what I'm saying to that is that we have to encourage people not only to be filmmakers and artists in front of the camera, they also need to look at the creative opportunities, because they are creative, behind the camera, inside the system.
That's what we're set up. We're set up, so every deal we do has to be inclusive of someone of color behind the camera and in front. That's our deal, otherwise we're not interested. We can sit down and talk about
we should talk.
No problem.
but even
that's how these things
even the Screen Actors Guild.
A lot of times we've heard this.
Yeah.
For a guy to, I'm coming from music, everyone's looking at me, well, you're the music guy, so why are you trying to do... I'm like, well, hold on, I'm a businessman. That's the first
all business, right?
It is
so
business.
To me, doesn't matter what business I'm in, it's business. Now, music is a big component to what I want to do in film, because if you remember back in the 80s and 90s, you had movies with big soundtracks, with artists. That doesn't happen anymore, or not so often. you know, the fact that with what Baz Luhrmann did last year with Elvis, that was to me was a showpiece of, well, here's Elvis the movie, great big movie, and here's a big soundtrack, and it worked.
And it makes money.
And it makes money. So now when you're sitting now with all the executives and, you know, record companies and, you know, all the film executives, it's like, well, hang on, why don't we create this label with music? And I'm like, well, hang on, that's what we're already doing.
Yes.
So now you want to work with us? Okay, we'll sit down with you.
Right.
You know, but that's what it is. It's about inclusion in front and behind the camera. That's how we deal.
And then Screen Actors Guild has had an incentive for years and years. If you have a certain amount of women and a certain amount of people of color and a certain amount of people with a disability, you can get a discount on how many extras. Yeah, you know, they do make that effort, but a lot of times it's really not the executive positions. It's
Right.
You hire a lot of PAs if you're shooting in Harlem, which is, you know, you're not fooling anybody.
It's a little bit of a plantation when you got a boss and everybody else is different.
Yeah, no, it's true. But you have to be in the room. That's my big
Well, it's a strong point.
message.
So let's spread the word. Storm the gates, get those positions, and change the world, or at least be part of the discussion. I mean, it's absolutely important.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, I will say this. You know, the one of the things that's been interesting to me, you know, because I started working in Hollywood in the '90s, and you know, worked with Lawrence Fishburne, was actually one of the first people I worked with there, which was a fascinating thing. A small aside. One day he came back from working on Pee-wee's Playhouse, and he said, oh, I got the script from this kid named Jean that was a PA. I want you to read it and tell me what you think of it. And it was amazing. It was called Boys in the Hood. And, you know, so, I mean, there's also these things where people have to get in wherever they are. And, you know, I don't mean, he was very respectful. He waited until after the shoot was over and then passed the script on the way out. He goes, I want you to play the dad in my script. And it was like, I read this, was, oh my God, this guy's amazing. You know, and then Stephanie Lang shepherded the system.
Yeah.
But she was alone.
Stephanie was the only, that's who was at Sony. She was the only one. And she really, I mean, she brought in, the Wayans were already famous. So the only thing that they did that because they wanted the Wayans.
Right.
So they had a black executive handle the Wayans films. And that, you know, again, that's better than nothing, but, you know, and
But
she's.
don't you feel like time has changed now? I mean,
No, there's still a name, yeah, but there's not, I don't know.
It's a little bit better.
There's never been a studio senior VP that's black.
No.
And definitely no president of a studio. And even the A24s of the world, even the name one.
has his own studio.
But he created that himself. That's not people hiring it. And then Tyler, you know, he went
There's
through.
a point to that. We don't have to wait for somebody to green light us. We can
Right.
make our own world.
Yes, it's true.
But I will say this, that, you know, the streaming world inadvertently, not because they set out to do this, but because their algorithms taught them something. They realized there was a lot of money being left on the table because they weren't addressing a lot of niches, and that goes for everything across the board, not just ethnicity, but gender, ability, and sexuality, and all these other differences in humans. That, you know, these are all markets, and the algorithms don't give a shit about your prejudice. They're just like, look, there's this, you can make money here, and suddenly there's a division for this, there's a division for that, a division for this, and they're making money. And so I think, and God bless technology for doing what no man can get done because we're supposed to do it. It's proven that they basically made their case based on dollars and cents. So I say for anybody who's out there making a case for anything, make sure that your case has a very strong return on investment, because at the end of the day, you've got to address the market. You show them the numbers where I can make money because these people, you have examples of them, and these people are underserved. So let's nail it.
Yeah. And then just one thing, it's still a star-driven system. You know, and that is like, look, you know, people go, oh, you're doing a movie, who's in it? It's usually the first question. So that's still there. So the agencies even control the studios at this point. The agencies are bigger than the studios right now. Because the studios can't greenlight a film without an actor.
That's true, and stardom is becoming. I'm going to move on.
No, anyway.
Oh, it's okay. I told Alita to come. I love what she has to say.
For both you and Jeremy, because the notion of stardom right now, actually maybe this is, well, jump to Jeremy first and then we'll come back to agencies. But the notion of stardom is very different. You know, we don't create Tom Cruises anymore, or Will Smiths or Tom Hanks. These are very durable international names that you can work with financially. But we're not really getting that in the new generation. What's changed, Jeremy?
You're asking me right now what changed?
I'm asking Jeremy.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
What's changed?
In terms of the creation of stardom and what's going on now with this newer generation where people are known, but they don't seem to have the same kind of wattage, if you will.
I think stars can be created very, very quickly now, without the longevity, without building up your career, and through so many different social mediums. It's just like, so you can, green light something because somebody's got so many clicks, and just, the film is a success. But if the film isn't a success, then the star isn't made, really. But it's interesting what you were talking about in the casting, and it goes from people being a servant and then now being a doctor or something. I mean, I find that so disappointing when you're trying to get a proper mix in your film, and a producer will come back with that. It'll be like a sop. Well, let's have there's a doctor, he can be black, or the dentist. And I think it's just very disappointing, really, rather than the serious roles. And again, back to your streaming, the streaming is very effective. We've got doing a film at the moment, and I said to the director, we haven't got any black characters, obviously, in this film. We've got to create some. And he said, well, it's set in the 1700s. I said, doesn't matter. where did people suddenly come from, 100 years ago?
There were black people on the planet in the 1700s, and they were in England.
Yeah. So then you have to resort to other means, like you say, well, who's going to stream this?
Right.
If you haven't got any black actors in the film, you have to sort of unnerve them one way or another, because that counts, really. Yeah. I mean, I would hate to try to sell a film that hasn't got black actors playing decent roles now. I think it's difficult. So.
Yeah.
And then Caprice, as an agent.
Oh, so you're done?
Sure.
No, and you're right. As an agent, being in Germany as a black agent, I don't look.
In Germany, you're black German.
I am black German, but I don't look at myself as. I mean, I am just me. I am me.
From an American perspective.
Yeah. But that's true. I'm an agent of color in Germany, and I mostly say I educate these people that don't know, and that meaning coming from the production point of view. And we have a lot of women of color, we wear different hairs. We change our hair all the time. And some people have, I don't know, they lose their hair or something. That happened recently. I had an actress, she booked a big job. I guess she went to the audition with her wig. And then she went to wardrobe after she booked the job. And they saw at wardrobe that she didn't have any hair. And the production called me. They're like, whoa, why didn't you tell us? I'm like, what do you mean, what I didn't tell you? She doesn't have any hair, She's supposed to play with the lead character, who is a white man. I have to just say, don't mind me. So it's a biracial couple on TV. I said, yeah, and so what? I said, she can be bold or put on a wig. But that looks so weird, putting on a wig. I said, have you watched television? Have you watched television? A lot of people are on there with wigs, extension, and whatever. Go find a good one. Then she said, well, let me talk to the network. I said, okay. So a day later, she rings me back. She's like, that's a good idea, Caprice. We are getting a wig. And you know what? We might show her bold. I said, yeah, I think that would be great for your show. And so I go to the point of where I educate those people. I don't... they just need more education.
Yeah. Advocating for talent. I mean, there are so many elements to that. I mean, you have the the amount of tenacity and aggression, but the right kind of aggression to get somebody to understand. Much like Alita was saying, when you're representing talent, you have to be, you believe in that person.
Oh,
you
yeah.
are willing to invest your time, your experience, your life really, because you don't get the time back.
No.
You are actually investing your journeys together, and that has to be understood and respected, that people are really making investment of time. This is the time that they have on Earth, and they believe in you enough to take the years of experience, the years of credibility, all those things to open doors. And it is a very interesting thing when you rep talent to see what you can make it possible. I remember once, very early in my career, pushing with this guy to go in on a martial arts film, and they're like, the character's written, who cares what it's written? See this guy. And so finally, after 5 weeks, I got him this audition, and they were like, we talked to the producers, we actually think it's a great idea. He said, he gets to the casting director's room, and he goes, yeah, I'm glad you got me the audition, but there's 40 other guys here, and some of them are Latin, some of them are Asian, and like, well, so what? I didn't say you didn't have to compete.
Exactly, yeah.
But we've opened up the door for all these people, and we've done it for years. Speaking of Fishburne, I remember when he was doing a film with Gene Hackman, and I called the casting director and said, can his partner be black? And they said, I don't know. I said, well, Gene's playing a lawyer in Berkeley, and Berkeley's a liberal city in California, so it could work. And then they called back and said, it's brilliant, we're going to make an offer. But they don't think that, or you can call and say, can this be a woman? Because everybody in this thing should not just be an object, a sexual object. They can be a person of power or somebody who's really the villain under the, far more interesting, because in real life, it's not that simple. People are much more interesting and complicated than we have allowed them to be on screen. And honestly, I think it helps with any piece of product to not be able to see someone on the screen and they fit an archetype so you know what the story is. It's very interesting when you don't know, and casting is such that you're, well, what is going to happen? I'm more in the moment now because I'm studying this crazy chemistry that you created. So it's fun when you really get into it.
Yeah, I just recently took on a client. He has a stutter. Naturally, he has a stutter when he speaks, but when he does his lines, the stutter is gone. So when he does go to live audition, I said, don't say anything, because say until you say your lines, and then you can talk, because some people have a pre-notion. They're like, oh, he stutters, he can't do it, he can't do the lines. Sometimes you give them tips. Sometimes you say, I go into the room, I just do my audition, and maybe then I talk to you, Yes. It can happen, so yeah.
So
you just have to take
we have 4 minutes left. Are there any questions from the audience?
You want to say something?
Any
I
statements?
just have a comment. I'm grateful for what you guys have said. I've been in the room with a lot of producers, and oftentimes they're just lazy, and I appreciate that you bring that there's options, and they don't fall into the same patterns, because that's what it is. They're not willing to think through what could be. And I think that our films could be a hell of a lot better if we would just start opening our brains a little bit.
Yeah.
In fact, I was just going to say that, Alita, the t-shirt we should hand that lady you're talking about is I'm ignorant. Because that's really, honestly, that's what I felt. Like, seriously, we need to recognize our films can be so much better, right?
Yeah.
Anyways.
As fascinating as real life. Yes, please.
Yeah, I also want to say thank you on behalf of my name is Signe. I'm a documentary filmmaker and actor from Sweden, but I'm actually Latin mixed, kind of. I just want to say thank you for. I have a half-sister, she's adopted from Colombia, and she's married to a guy from Ghana. In Sweden, we're very mixed. And they have a 4-year-old daughter. And I was in South Africa, I bought this toy from the Little Mermaid. And she was like, gets so happy to see it when she get the present when I came back to Sweden. And she shows all her white kids, her friends in the same age, her doll, that's a black doll. But my generation, we didn't grow up with that. No matter if it was like me, I'm brown, proud, mixed Latino, or Asian, or black, or anything. So I would, on behalf of my niece, say thank you so much, because it means a lot for her, and she's a kid.
Yes. Our last question or statement.
Yeah, just another comment. My name is Jim Shanut. I'm a service producer from Kenya. And just the comment you're making about being in the room is what the phrase that I use with my team is actually an old French saying. It says you're either at the table or you're on the menu.
Yes. Well, on that amazing note, thank you all very much. Thank you to these amazing panelists.
Much love is what we need upon us. Let them come together with the unity among us. Unity, it's a unity. Yana, this a good work. You know what I'm
Umoja
saying?
ni nguvu, utengano udhaifu, tukisimama jitoe